I prefer to have the stall mats on dirt because when the urine runs under those, it just gets absorbed into the ground and goes bye-bye, and that's great. David's building a barn. It's going to have a wood floor, and he's got vinyl tile to put on it, and he's got stall mats. And when we moved to our horse farm, it used to be a horse farm, the previous owner did not clean out the stalls, which meant that just by default, we wound up with stall mats because they were below a foot of horse manure and straw. So that's how we wound up with stall mats and learned about them. And stall mats are really, they're made for horses because if horses stand on concrete all day long, it's really bad for their legs and they wind up with a lot of leg problems. And so the stall mats are meant to be cushioning for their legs because they're very large animals, like 1,000 pounds or more. So goats don't need them for that reason. And I hate them. I hate stall mats because the urine runs underneath them and it sits there. The people who had our farm before were very strange. We have some stalls are concrete, some stalls are dirt. So we've had experience with both. And the urine gets underneath those stall mats. If it's on concrete, it has nowhere to go. If the stall mats are on dirt, which is basically what we've done, we've put all of our stall mats on dirt. I prefer to have the stall mats on dirt because when the urine runs under those, it just gets absorbed into the ground and goes bye-bye, and that's great. If it goes between the stall mats and then the concrete or anything solid, if you put stall mats on wood or vinyl flooring or whatever, it's just gonna get it soaked up by the wood some, but it's just gonna sit there. It's not going to evaporate as fast as if you didn't have the stall mat. So from an ammonia perspective, it winds up trapping more ammonia in your barn. So you have to be conscientious about good ventilation, especially in the winter when it's cold and people are very tempted to close up their barn tight. And you don't want to do that. You need to keep like a door or a window open or something, not on the side where the prevailing wind is, so that wind doesn't blow in there. So like there's a door on the east side of our barn and we keep it open 365 days a year unless there's a blizzard. And the reason we close it then is because we don't want to have to shovel out all the snow out of the barn. And the other thing is you have to be mindful of what is on the edge of the stall mats. We very naively put some of them was floor next to the milking parlor, and we're in the milking parlor and there's this horrible stench of urine and we could not figure out why, and we realized that it was running under the wall from the stall next door because it was under the stall mats. So we took the stall mats out of there so that that wouldn't happen anymore. So with the setup that you're working on, a few things to keep in mind. One is, I don't know how vinyl is going to react to being wet 365 days a year because we haven't had it in that situation. We put vinyl tile on the floor of our penmobile, and I don't think it survived more than 1 or 2 cleanings. Because when my husband was cleaning it out, we used a shovel to clean it out. And this shovel just like got snagged it and it just ripped like a couple feet, like within no time of having it in there. And then each time he cleaned it out, it just more and more was getting ripped up. I don't think it was even a year when all of it had been ripped up. You're on the East Coast where shavings are cheaper than straw, right?
Yeah, I use shavings for my chickens, for example.
So that will make it better for you because you have to use a pitchfork for straw and you use a shovel for shavings. And what's challenging with stall mats and a pitchfork is that the tine of a pitchfork can go in between those stall mats really, really easily. So if there was vinyl under those stall mats, you would be ripping it pretty quickly. So if you've got shavings, then you would use a shovel to clean it out, which is going to be a lot better then because you're going to be much less likely to accidentally slip in between those stall mats and rip the vinyl. So as long as the vinyl is covered, that should be okay. And I'm thinking that in the front to make it easier, because like when you go in, like you're walking into the aisle where you're going to have like your supplies and milking stand and that kind of stuff would probably be easier if you don't have a threshold on the door, so that it would be really easy to just sweep everything out the door. If you bought stall mats already for that front part, you could use them. Our goats drag bedding into the milking parlor all the time, and it's something that kind of drives me crazy, but it would be so cool if I could just sweep it out, but I can't, because our milking parlor is inside of a goat stall. And there's a threshold, which actually doesn't stop them from dragging the straw in there, because it just, straw is kind of big and it's on their legs as they're coming in. So we have to shovel out our milking parlor to get the straw out of there when it gets too unbearable. So I think what you're doing can work if you're just mindful of the fact that vinyl can rip really easily.